Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday night, and welcome to another episode of the Lock Shop's Fantasy Football Extravaganza. Nielsen and Huss back with you once again, ready to dive in to Fantasy Football Week 6. As always, brought to you by our wonderful partners at Coolbet as part of the Nielsen Media Coolbet Network. Just go to Coolbet today, sign up. Use the code LOCKSHOP, 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit, up to $200. Sarah, is that the general manager of the Golden Boys from the Listener League that's just dominating everybody?
Oh, the Golden Boys. You know what? I will say this. I was due for a good start to my fantasy season because last year I thought I had some great teams, and at every single turn I had disaster awaiting me. And it was just a miserable campaign in most leagues. Been the exact opposite this year. Justin Jefferson's been a stud, had him a keeper in a couple, drafted him in a couple. And man, my poor buddy Dom, I mean, thoughts and prayers to him. I rolled up on him last night on Monday Night Football with a Mahomes-Kelsey stack.
Ouch.
Kelsey only had 25 yards receiving too, but you add in 4 touchdowns.
I had Kelsey in one of my leagues, and I was down like 18 or something. And I had Kelsey, and the other guy had Daniel freaking Carlson. And Carlson went off for like 15 or 16. But I'm like, oh, Kelsey had 4 touchdowns. Like, I'm laughing. 25 yards. I think the last side, like the lowest ever for 4 touchdowns, like 94 yards or something like that. Kelsey goes off for 25 yards. I was pissed. We hit the touchdown for Kelsey last night. Devontae Adams. We did okay at some props last night in the Lock Shop. Overall, that 30.5 finishing at 30 was a little bit of a buzzkill.
Well, listen, I was pissed at Andy for that, and I get why they did it. Like, they scored the touchdown, so they were up 7. So they're at 30 to 23 at that point. They're looking for the 2-pointer to make it a 9-point game and have a 2-score lead. So it is defensible. I get it. They didn't make it. So now we're sitting there needing another point to get the over on the team total. And it was that much more depressing because the over hit easily. I think we just sort of outsmarted ourselves going on the Chiefs side of things. And then
we've had so much luck with those team totals so far. So
that's the first loss. That's our first loss on a team total.
You're right. We were perfect on Monday night totals till last night.
But I have to ask you, I mean, what were you thinking when McDaniels decided to go for 2? I mean, there was 4.5 minutes left in the football game.
I don't know what he was thinking. I also know that I kind of thought he would do that because it's Josh McDaniels. You know what I mean? Like, that didn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, if you take the 1 point, your defense plays well, you need a field goal to win it with a guy who's already hit a 53-yarder in that football game. Like, it didn't make any sense to me at all.
Well, and listen, in normal circumstances, that wouldn't have made sense to me. But then you add in the fact that Carlson's playing the way he is, and the Chiefs have a kicker off the street that was working at a Wendy's 2 weeks ago. I mean, the guy struggled. And I'll say this just quickly. I mean, we don't have to relitigate the entire weekend, but the bullshit Brady roughing the passer was bad.
Ridiculous.
And then that Chris Jones play yesterday was bad. But even as a Chiefs fan, I will admit that refereeing group, I think, was so spooked by the Arrowhead crowd and the way they reacted to that. The entire second half, the Chiefs were getting the calls. And I mean, how many times all season long will there be a defensive holding call on a field goal, a missed field goal? And I mean, it wasn't like it was a 4th and 15. It wasn't like a 5-yard penalty. It was an automatic first down. And you give Mahomes another opportunity to do that, he will kill you. And that is exactly what happened. Listen, they got away with the win. pretty good. And I will say this, I know we didn't get the spread, but I did live bet them down 14-0 at about
Of
plus
course you did. I
138.
thought about it too. I got busy with
Well,
bath and bedtime, so I didn't do it.
I was still, I was in a good spot after the Sunday. So I figured, you know what, we would maybe go on tilt a little bit, and it did come back. And I mean, of course, the Mahomes over, we got a good number on that, over 2.5 touchdowns as well. I think that was around,
that was plus money.
30.
Yeah.
Oh, it was way more than plus money. It was a good, like, plus 128 or plus 130. So anyways, wild Monday nighter. Remember the enjoyment of Monday night when you settle in for Thursday night, folks, with the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears.
Not all primetime games are done. I mean, we'll move along here to fantasy for this week in just a second, but I'm watching that game last night, and I'm sitting in the upstairs TV. Tam's sitting next to me, and I'm watching, and I see them come up 4th and 15. We're wanting that Chiefs -7. I'm like, damn it! Like, they should have punched it in here, and now they're gonna have to settle for this. And then the holding call, and I just started laughing, like hysterically. I started laughing. I said, when in the world on a field goal do you see defensive hold? Never. I said, they must have it wrong. It's not a defensive hold. How could they possibly be holding defensively when they're kicking the ball? And then you see it, and it was pretty weak ass call. Like, that's
going to get called anyway, twice a season.
Yeah. And then the Chiefs go for 2 instead of just getting the 1 and covering our 30. And it was a roller coaster last night. Let's just say that. The good news is we've been doing pretty well, especially on Monday nights with those totals. So we'll deal with it. All right, Huss, coming out of this week, just quick injury report. Guys are going to have to look at. James Conner left the game with the ribs. His main backup, Williams, left with a knee. So we'll talk about, Benjamin in a second. Teddy Bridgewater left early in that game. Kind of killed me. I was on the Dolphins and a bunch of different things. I was just like, oh, shit. The moment Teddy Bridgewater went out, I was rattled. Saquon Barkley left with a shoulder, came back, has been an absolute stud, a monster, was great when he came back in that football game. Baker Mayfield was in a walking boot. Freiermuth is out. So I guess there's a few things of significance there from that injury report, isn't there?
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to get to, usually we don't spend too much time on tight ends, but when it comes to the waiver wire this week, I mean, we saw Darren Waller was AWOL during the Monday nighter. Freiermuth's out with concussion. Cameron Brate was out. So I think the waiver wire, the tight end category, and now we've got a couple buys starting to come into the mix as well. This is going to be a time where you often don't have a lot of wiggle room and you need to pick up a guy to play. So we'll get into a few of those guys with our favorite pickups of the week.
Well, let's dive right into it, buddy. Let's get to the old waiver wire targets for the weekend. Let's see, not a bad week at running back. Some pretty big targets if they're available in your league. Don't mind wide receiver this week. One quarterback that's certainly worth picking up if he's still floating around in your leags. Where do you want to start? Where are you going to go here?
Well, listen, let's go to the running backs. And listen, the running back in most leagues is going to be the leanest of the groups. Now, I did, it's funny, I was just looking in a 12-team league, and there was, who's the Cam Akers battery mate in the backfield there? Darrell
Henderson. Darrell Henderson Jr.,
Henderson. Yeah. So Henderson had actually been dropped. I mean, from league to league, there'll be a guy that has been dropped lately that might surprise you. In fact, it was the listener league. Now that I think about it, I
picked up Khalil Herbert in one of my leagues week after Montgomery went down. It was bizarre. I was like, what's he still doing out there?
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, for overall, we're not going to tell you the most obvious guys because in all likelihood, they're probably not there. But it does pay to go back, check out, see if there was any late drops going into the week by a guy that needed someone to make it. The one guy that I gave out last week, and a lot of people maybe didn't have time to do it before Thursday, was Dion Jackson. But you had no Jonathan Taylor, and then Nyheim Hines gets knocked out early on, and he ended up being the guy. So, Taylor is going to come back, but, with his question mark, as well as Nyheim Hines, Dion Jackson, definitely worthwhile to have on your roster. And if you do your guy, a Pierce guy that has it on a bye week and you have slim pickings, he might be a guy that you could throw in and count on potentially 12, 15 plus touches this week, depending on the health of those other guys. And listen, this is really scraping it, and you'd have to be in a bad situation to play this guy. But Jeric McKinnon was a big part of that Chiefs offense last night.
I've had McKinnon stashed in a bunch of leagues waiting, and I love what I'm seeing.
Listen, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has actually done a pretty good job of getting into the end zone this year, but he has not really broken any big plays for the most part. Big thing is he hasn't been putting the ball on the carpet, which is nice. But I wouldn't at all be surprised to see McKinnon, after the performance that he had yesterday, earn even a little bit more run from Andy Reid and get him in both from a running and a passing aspect. So, again, we're getting into bye weeks. These are not guys that are probably going to win you weeks or anything, but if you're staring at injured guys or holes in your lineup, Jeric McKinnon is a guy that I think will at least be serviceable over the course of the next few weeks. And then one receiver that I think is going to be a great pickup if you can get him. And a lot of people in your leagues might not even think about him because he still has the IR designation, and that's Van Jefferson in LA. The Rams passing offense has been Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higby. I can't remember how much money they gave out Allen Robinson, but I can safely say at this point, it has not been money well spent.
Too much.
Yeah. He's killing people right now. And Van Jefferson last year was a guy that actually did develop quite a rapport with Matt Stafford. Now, I think Stafford's way under 100% right now, and I'm out basically on the Rams as a real contending team, but they're still going to score points. They'll be there. So if you're in a dire strait in the receiver category, I think you're going to see Van Jefferson become a pretty reliable number 2 behind Cooper Kupp, unless some major turnaround happens with Allen Robinson. So he's a guy that I certainly like for pickup as well. What do you got cooking at the RB?
Well, I got a few. I mean, the big one's Kenneth Walker this week in Seattle, and now he shouldn't be available in your leagues.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
why
saying.
I didn't put him on mine. But
yeah, you 100% have to check to make sure that he's not available. If he is available, I would spend everything you have left to get this guy, considering the status of Rashad Penny, the way the Seahawks offenses look so far. If you're in an 8-team league, first of all, you need to find more friends. Second of all, he might still be there in an 8-team league. You're not going to find him in many leagues, but you have to check just in case, because that's a big one. The other one is a guy that I took really late in some of my deeper drafts, kind of hoping for this exact scenario, but it's Eno Benjamin of the Arizona Cardinals. And you see James Conner out ribs, Darrell Williams out with a knee, and he had 57 yards and a touchdown stepping in. And this was a guy that I would hope, I had hoped that he had some standalone value even prior to these injuries as like a third down back. But James Conner has a history of injuries. Darrell Williams doesn't really scare me that much anyway. I like Eno Benjamin. He's been a stash for me already. Might still be available in a good chunk of your leagues. That's a guy from a running back position that I would certainly look at. So those are 2 running backs. Walker's an automatic, probably not even available, but double check just in case. And then wide receivers, Jacoby Myers. And this is a guy who probably should just been on your IR or anything up to this point, but he's only 49% owned in Yahoo leagues. I was looking in the Yahoo leagues, 49% owned. He came back this week, 111 yards, touchdown, 74% catch rate so far this season. If he's available for some reason, and apparently, at least if you're in a Yahoo league, he's available in half of them. That's a guy I would look at. Darius Slayton's another guy with the New York Giants that I would look at as well. 7 catches on 9 targets, 90 yards, and they don't got anybody else. Like Saquon, and they're good. Well, they're winning. I still don't know if I want to say that they're good, but they're winning. And I know you like the Giants coming into the season, Huss, so I'll give you a little kudos on this one. I'll Horowitz you on this. Saquon is everything to them, but somebody has to catch the ball. You can't give the ball to Saquon every single time. Wandale Robinson injured. Kadarius Toney, they don't trust him. Plus, he's always injured. Shepard's out for the year. Darius Slayton has proven in the past that he can play for these guys. It's like they brought in all these other guys and totally forgot about Darius Slayton. So Slayton should be available in your leagues. That would be a waiver wire target that I would look at this week. So those are my running backs and wide receivers, at least.
Yeah, don't forget for Kenny Golladay, maybe one of the highest paid receivers in the league this year. Brian Daboll has no time for him. I got to tell you, Brian Daboll's pushing all the right buttons right now with the Giants. That was, I shockingly was out, not at my place. We had a great day on the river, watched the Bomber game, and then stayed at a friend's place. And he was a Packer fan. Got up bright and early to watch that game. And I mean, I was stunned at how they were able to turn it around. And I told you, Danny Dimes, people are sleeping on him right now. Now he's got a good coach, and hey, he's not tearing it up.
He's playing for a contract because they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, right? So
absolutely. And hey, I mean, whether he'll be the guy next year there or elsewhere, I guess we'll see. That was a really impressive win though by the Giants. And yeah, that was it 8-1 to win the NFC East. Listen, if you told me they would be 4-1 right off the bat, I'd be like, perfect. What, they got a 2-game lead? Well, no. I mean, it's 5-0, 2 4-1 teams. The Cowboys can't lose without.
They're 13-2 combined, buddy. Those 3 teams, which I would have never thought of in a million years. Damn you, NFL.
The good old days of the NFC least. Anyways, back to pickups though, and I did want to touch on the tight ends because Darren Waller was hurt, and the Raiders have their bye this week. Freiermuth out with a concussion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pitts has been AWOL all season long. I think there's a lot of people that have really been struggling at that position. You know, I picked up Evan Engram a couple weeks ago. He might be kicking around, and he actually had a better game last week when the Jacksonville offense really struggled against the Texans. But 2 guys that I think, I mean, I'm looking at these guys are available in most of my 12-team leagues. First of all is Noah Fant from Seattle. And Noah Fant, I mean, first of all, I'm going to get to Geno Smith in a minute. The Geno Smith Appreciation Society. I have, like, I was taking tons of shots, but I mean, I was one of the guys that laughed. Oh, God, Seattle's starting Geno Smith. How bad must Drew Lock be? All the jokes. Geno Smith's been unreal. And Fant is now more and more in the offense each and every week. He was 3 catches for 49. He had a season high 5 targets. And the bottom line is that Seattle offense is cooking. And now with Rashad Penny out, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they put a little bit more on the arm of Geno Smith, and that might mean a little bit more for Noah Fant. So I think he's definitely a startable player going forward if you need a tight end for a week or two. And I'll be honest, I didn't even know who this guy was until I did a little bit of a deeper dive into it. But Kade Otten on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, we're looking at a deep dive here. I like this.
He caught 6 of 7 targets. Brady has, gone to him quite often the last couple of weeks. Cameron Brate's out with a concussion. And by all accounts, I mean, you know how it works with Tom Brady. You get a few opportunities. If you make the most, you're in. If you don't, forget about seeing the football. Well, this guy's been really good so far, in his limited opportunities. And, from people that cover the Bucs, a couple of the beat writers report, they said that he's been so good and reliable the last couple of weeks that, even when Brate's back, he could absolutely have a regular role in the offense. So again,
it's not like Brate's lit the world on fire. So
no, these pickups are guys that can come in and maybe fill a spot if you're in a real need. And there's a real scarcity of productive tight ends right now. So Kade Otten, if you're really in a deep league, or maybe you have Brate and he's been out, and then Noah Fant in Seattle for me at the tight end.
I got one tight end. It's Hayden Hurst to the Cincinnati Bengals. He's got touchdowns in back-to-back games. T. Higgins is projected to not play this week. So I mean, with T. Higgins, you've watched a few breakdowns, and defenses are still throwing 2 guys towards Jamar Chase. It's usually one-on-one coverage with T. Higgins. They'll mix in Tyler Boyd a little bit, but I like the fact that Joe Burrow has relied on Hayden Hurst in some big spots so far. So I'm not saying pick him up and he's a must start every week, but I'm saying pick him up as we navigate our way through a bye week for the next 5, 6, 7 weeks. This is a guy that you can probably throw in, hope for a touchdown, hope for 3 catches, maybe 45 yards or something. But Hayden Hurst has always had game, man. Even when he was in Baltimore, I really liked what he's able to do. So Hayden Hurst is a guy you might want to look for and tie it the waiver wire. If Higgins is banged up, looks like he's going to miss week 6. If he misses any time beyond that, or at least just for week 6, if you need somebody this week, if you've been streaming tight ends all season, then Hayden Hurst is a guy that I'd probably spend some time on. Caught 6 of his 7 targets and a touchdown against Baltimore. So somebody to look at.
You know what? And again, I'm just going to use our listener league right now as the basis for this simple 12-team league, basic rules. And it's funny, Hurst has already been picked up, but you know who is available? Taysom Hill, who just came off a 34-point explosion at that tight end position. So I was a little surprised. I assumed he would have been on someone's roster already, but Hill seems to be back rolling again, and they're finding ways to get him the football and earn that
damn Taysom Hill. Hey, all the time, that guy.
Well, and he's so feast or famine, though. I mean, you can put him in, and he'll get 1.5 points, or 2 points, and then he goes off the way that he did last week. So yeah, those are some good pickups this week if you're in a bit of a jam as we start getting into bye weeks in the world of fantasy football.
Quarterback position this week, not overly strong. I mean, there's one guy, he's your start of the week. We can kind of tie him into all of this if you want.
Well, let's get to it. Let's get to it right now.
Let's move forward then, because I'm tying Seattle into one of my starts of the week too.
I absolutely cannot believe what we're seeing right now from the Seattle Seahawks. I thought this team was going to be incredibly bad. I thought that they had it set up where they were a lock for a top 3 pick and they'd be picking up some quarterback next year and moving on from Russ. Like, how good does that trade look, first of all, right now?
Dude.
Russell Wilson.
Insane.
2 first-round picks, Noah Fant, Drew Lock, 2 firsts and 2 seconds, I believe. Fant and Lock. And Russell Wilson has been god-awful right now. And the Broncos are... We could do a 2-hour show just on the Broncos and what the hell's going on with them right now. So, Geno Smith, I mean, what can I say? The last 3 weeks, this guy has 900 yards passing. He's got 9 touchdowns and a pick. Runs the football as well occasionally. And I think he'll need to do that even more now with Rashad Penny out. I mean, Kenneth Walker is certainly getting an opportunity to do that. But Geno Smith's one of the best stories in the National Football League this year. As I said, I owned it before. We've made Geno Smith jokes in the past. His earlier career wasn't great, but this has just been awesome to see what he can do. And listen, they found a way to lose a few games. Their defense absolutely sucks, but they're putting up like 30. I mean, that win they had against Detroit was insane. It was such a fun game to watch too. So Geno Smith is this, like, outside of the guys that, you know, your Mahomes. I mean, listen, it's Mahomes and Allen going head to head this week. If you got those guys, I'm pretty sure you're starting them. But if you've had a guy that's gotten hurt, if you've got a guy on the bye, or you're just looking to, maybe shake it up and get a guy that has been consistent, it's Geno Smith. And the other great thing about guys that play on teams with god-awful defenses is that they basically just have to keep on throwing and keep on going for points. And even if they're bad, garbage time counts in fantasy too. So, I've gone from a Geno Smith joker and making fun of the guy. I am now a card-carrying member of the Geno Smith Appreciation Society.
We might as well just make this game our whole fantasy football extravaganza this weekend, because I'm going back to Kyler Murray for my start of the week. And I will say, don't love a lot of the quarterbacks this week. I like Geno, actually. That was a good get. But last time I went to Kyler Murray a couple weeks ago, actually at 26 points. It was his best fantasy football game of the season so far. You said it. Seattle is, to put it politely, one of, if not the most generous defense in the National Football League so far. This should be, when we get to our picks, I know personally, I'll be hammering the over on this football game. And I think Kyler Murray can have a lot of success against this Seattle defense. And on top of that, and I know I just laid out Benjamin as a good running back waiver claim this week, but if James Conner can't go this week, Kyler Murray's going to run a ball into the end zone. It's as simple as that for me. He's still kind of looking for that big game from a passing perspective so far. Kyler Murray, I mean, it could be a 3-4 touchdown game here for Kyler Murray. So I love your Geno pick. I love the Kyler Murray pick. Start your Seahawks, start your Cardinals, and that would be Ertz. We'll get to him in a second. Marquise Brown, Tyler Lockett. I think those guys, Kenneth Walker, you're probably going to start everybody that's involved in this game. So Huss is on Geno Smith. I'm on Kyler Murray. It's a great matchup for both of these guys. And I'll have these guys sprinkled across my DFS lineups this weekend. Let's just say that.
Yeah, just, I mean, for those of you that like to kind of, base DFS picks, whatnot on the spreads, the bookmakers, where there's going to be the most points. This is the number 2 game of the week. Obviously, Bills Chiefs has a massive number. That's at 54. The only other game right now on the board above 50 for the total is Cardinals Seahawks at 50.5. Moving on to the running back.
Yep.
This is a guy that's been great the last couple of weeks. He's a affordable player in DFS. And he is a guy that you may have on your squad and have been playing or have been sitting on your bench behind some guys that you draft higher than him.
Who are you going with here?
Jeff Wilson of the San Francisco 49ers. There was a lot of questions when Eli Mitchell went out. And I was reading all different stories. Some guys, Hasty's the guy that you need to get. He'll be the running back within a couple of weeks. They signed
Mason. They brought in Marlon Mack, released him. Yeah.
So all we got, listen, Jeff Wilson has been everything that, frankly, Eli Mitchell was last year when he took over that job. He is now pushing 20-plus touches a game, went for 120 last game, has had touchdowns in his last 2. We know the way that San Francisco likes to run the football. And, oh, by the way, it's the Atlanta Falcons on the docket this week who have been more than accommodating to opposing running backs. Jeff Wilson's on a roll right now, as are the San Francisco 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think Kyle Shanahan will be more than happy to hand it off. And if previous games for Atlanta are any indication, running backs are feasting right now. So I love Jeff Wilson. If I have him on my fantasy team, if he's not one of my top 2 running backs, I'm getting him a flex spot. He's the guy that I want in my lineup this week.
I'm going to go with a guy who's finally getting opportunity that people have been calling for forever, and he made the most of it last week. That's Ramondre Stevenson of the New England Patriots. He was an absolute monster. Damian Harris is out, and who knows? I mean, maybe they find another running back that they can split time with. But this guy went off for 25 carries, and, when they were running their split, it was like 12 touches, 14 touches, okay numbers, 25 carries, 161 yards, 6.4 yards per carry. Now, it was against a Detroit defense that, you're not going to write home about, but 6.4 yards per carry, didn't have a touchdown, still had 17.5 points for you. I think there's a huge week coming for Stevenson. From a DFS perspective, I had him loaded a little bit earlier on, rather affordable. I think he's about 6,000. So I'm on Stevenson, but so he'll be my start of the week. I think there's a big week coming. Has a nice matchup this week as well, where it could just be a ground attack. Chubb on one side, Stevenson on the other, and just let them go toe-to-toe. Corey and a straight-up Trailer Park Boys reference, Corey and Trevor, which is awesome. Corey Trevor 69 on the live stream says, would you claim Stevenson or Walker in Seattle in a PPR league? And to be honest with you, I'm very surprised both those guys would be available. You must be in like an 18-team league, or an 8-team league. But Huss, if you had to choose Stevenson or Walker, what would you do?
I think I probably go Walker, and that's just because, I don't trust Bill Belichick. And, when Harrison comes back, Penny's gone. Like, he's not coming back anytime soon. So Walker has that opportunity.
That's a good point.
The other side of the thing is like, I like Seattle's offense right now a hell of a lot better than New England's, even though they put up the 29, or I guess one of them was a defensive touchdown. That being said, if you can get either of those guys on your waiver wire this week, Corey or Trevor, make it happen, because either of those guys are very, very startable for the foreseeable future.
Corey, Trevor, I need a drink. Let's go. What's going on here?
What are you sipping on tonight, by the way?
That's about a 50-50 spiced rum and Diet Pepsi right there. I like to have the odd drink 2 or 3 times a week to wind down. I didn't nap today. I'm dead tired right now. Just a little, listen, as Mr. Leahy would say, just a little drinky poo for the night here.
Nice to see you're part of Team DP.
Yes, I am.
Always a Diet Pepsi guy. I mean, I will drink Diet Coke if I have to, but DP. Knowing you and some of your rather unique eating habits, I was going to expect, this is an A&W root beer or just something quirky like that. But
no,
anyways,
I like to have the odd
that's
spice rum. It's true. Yeah, it's it's the beginning of our podcast where we just watch NHL hockey and drink and just stream the entire thing. That's eventually going to happen. So. Yeah.
That's coming to the YouTube channel when we drop that.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're on Stevenson at running back. You've got Jeff Wilson Jr. Wide receiver this week. Huss, where are you going?
Okay. This is my favorite play of the week. I will be hitting this stack hard in DraftKings. And if you've got Jamar Chase, he absolutely has to be in your lineup. I see no reason why he isn't, but I think he pops off. In fact, he and Joe Burrow, I think, pop off.
Ooh.
The LSU boys coming back to the Bayou in the Dome to take on the New Orleans Saints. There is going to be a ton of love for Joey B and Jamar Chase in this game. These guys have had some incredible success down there. And not that they aren't trying to win, or I just think that they are going to be ready for a monster game. And man, what's happening with the Saints right now? I mean, hey, Geno Smith carved him up for 32. I'm just going to throw this out there and say, I think the Bengals are capable of doing what the Seattle Seahawks have done, especially with especially with Joe Mixon playing the way he is. And with T. Higgins out, I think we could be looking at 14 or 15 targets to Jamar Chase. And listen, Lattimore will be there. They'll give him out, but he's that good. He's that good. And those guys have such a great connection. So I'm on Jamar Chase. I think he and Joe Burrow let everybody know that they're still doing quite well all that way north in Cincinnati after their time in Baton Rouge, and no better chance to remind everyone in LSU territory that there's still gods around there. And I think they're going to have a big, big game. I can't imagine they've been looking forward to any game more than this one on the schedule this year.
I like the storyline. I like those. I like that a lot. That's good. My guy
got to get a good narrative.
Yeah, you got to get a good storyline. My guy, it's every single year in the offseason, he gets disrespected. He slides in drafts. Oh, he's not going to be able to do it without his quarterback this year. There's a new guy there. And my start of the week this week is Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going back to that Seattle-Arizona game. Tyler Lockett is always him and Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is very disrespected in the fantasy game from year to year as well. Quietly like a top 15 guy all the time. Tyler Lockett, and this goes back to your Geno Smith play. This is a very stackable option in DFS this week as well. But Tyler Lockett, in his last 4 games, he's only played 5. First game was a little slow. His last 4 games, PPR, 19.7, 16.6, 13.1, and 27.4. If you go look at the consensus Fantasy Pros rankings right now, DK Metcalf is like at 11. Tyler Lockett's at 17. DK's only top 13 points once all season. Tyler Lockett has done it in 4 straight weeks. So this guy just balls out, man. He just played. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. You can go start your DKs. You're going to obviously start DK Metcalf. I have a league where I'm pretty deep in wide receiver, and I haven't started Tyler Lockett once yet this year. And that's the sign of disrespect again. I'm like, I'm going to start CeeDee Lamb again because CeeDee Lamb's going to have a week. Bottom line is you have to start Tyler Lockett, and I'm going to lock him in, no pun intended, as my start of the week at wide receiver.
Well, the funny thing is about last week, he had his lowest target share since week 1, caught 5 of 6 balls, still went for 104 and got in the end zone twice.
2 touchdowns, yeah.
He's got in the game 2 and 3 against the Niners and Atlanta, was targeted 11 times and 8 the week before. So he's certainly getting the work and he's making the plays. I do like that from Tyler Lockett. And he's also kind of a sneaky guy in DraftKings, not one of those super high-priced elite receivers you can pop in your lineup, and if as a game like he did last week can really help you do well. Final start for me is Tyler Higby. We talked a little before about seeing if Van Jefferson was on the waiver wire. the disaster that's been the Allen Robinson signing and the one-dimensional offense that is the Rams with Matt Stafford throwing to Cooper Kupp 50% of the time. Well, it seems like 25% of the time it's a running play. And the other 25% it's going to Tyler Higby. He's got back-to-back games with 10-plus targets. He's turned into a really reliable option for Matthew Stafford. And he is a guy going up against Carolina, who just fired Matt Rule and their defensive coordinator. I think that team is completely in flux. I was optimistic on them and on Baker this year. That faith was completely unfounded. They're not
as good as you were,
team.
as good as your Giants play was. The Baker love really backfired here.
Well, as I said, I picked 3 last place teams last year to win the division, all at big numbers. The Panthers, which was the biggest number, I think that was 11-1. The Giants 8-1, and the Jags 7-1. Jags had that ugly loss to Houston next week, but they're right in there. That'll be fun following the Giants and Jags, hoping for upsets the rest of the way. But yeah, just back to that tight end position. We talked about a couple guys that you might pick up if you're really screwed. Tyler Higby, though, if you have him, feel good about starting him this week. I think he continues to be a big part of that Rams offense. And I think the Panthers are exactly what the Rams need to sort of get things turned around and on the right direction after a couple of really disappointing losses.
For my start of the week at tight end, and I've got Kyler Murray in my start of the week at quarterback, and I'm in my most expensive entry league. We call it the Big Boy League, because the big boys play this league. I've got the Kyler Murray, Zach Ertz stack. And I'm going to ride with the Kyler Murray, Zach Ertz stack this week in what should be a high-scoring game against Seattle. And Zach Ertz, all 5 games that he's played so far, double digits in PPR points. And in his last 4 games, he's had at least 6 catches in every single one. And he's had at least 10 targets in 3 of them. And the one game he didn't have 10 targets and he was targeted 6 times, caught every single one of them, and one of them went for a touchdown. So, Marquise Brown is excellent. He's having a nice year. Outside of him, Zach Ertz is Kyler Murray's guy. It's as simple as that. And this comes back around to the discussion we had a little bit earlier on when you were talking about one of your waiver wire tight ends. Running backs are banged up right now. And if the running backs are banged up, maybe the odd check down that would have gone to James Conner ends up going to Zach Ertz instead of Eno Benjamin. So I like Zach Ertz this week. I think I've been on him once before already, but in a matchup like this, in a game that Arizona really needs to get, and it's not one that have we seen the spread on this? You said the total was 50.5. What's the line on this game right now?
Arizona -3 in Seattle.
Really? Well, I don't know if I like that. Yeah.
And actually, and it's Seattle +3 at -119. So this could actually get to 2.5 quite quickly. Let's see. If it's 2.5, if you're taking if you get it to 2.5, Seattle's just above even money +104, and the Cardinals are -122. Seahawks are only +130 on the money line.
Yeah.
Cardinals -154.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to our best bets of the week on Friday's episode of The Lock Show. But I do like Zach Ertz as my tight end start of the week. Let's just get to a few more comments here. NPC76, he's in the listener league. He says Taysom Hill is his waiver wire claim this week in the FFE listener league. So
does he have the first pick?
I don't know. I don't know if he's at top. He must be. He must be at the top of the priority list.
He's been having a tough run so far, and rewarded with that. I'm unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, depending on the way you look at it.
Yeah, you're a little bit further down there. Yeah.
So leave me some scraps, boys.
Waiver wire, humble brag. Yeah. That's not bad. All right, so there you go. That's a fun episode. Getting you ready for week 6 of the fantasy. Week 6 already. Damn it. It's going too quick. Fantasy football season is going too quick. I know the football season will continue into early February, but fantasy football season ends usually Christmas Day-ish, and I'm not ready. I'm not ready for it.
No, I'm not either, but we've still got, listen, I don't know if I'm ready for Sunday afternoon. Chiefs Bills coming off that Monday nighter. Game of the year, Arrowhead. Bills favored on the road. When was the last time the Chiefs were an underdog at home? we got to be talking about, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, 3-4 years. I mean, early.
What was it in the playoff
time?
game last year? Were they an underdog at home in the playoff game last year or no?
I don't think so. No, I mean, they
Might
would
have
have
been
maybe
close.
been a slight favorite. Like, it's
Yeah.
one thing to not be the 3-point. It's one
Yeah.
thing to be a 1-point favorite, to be a pick 'em, but to be lame.
Do you touch
to
that
be
game
getting
in our
2.5
best
or
bets?
3?
You got to stay away from it, don't you?
Probably not. Probably not. It would just stress me out too much if I went on it. And to be honest, and again, we'll talk about this fully on Friday's show when we lock in the picks. This is a tough spot. I mean, Buffalo just crushed Pittsburgh on Sunday. And then the Chiefs had a long, intense, tough, drawn-out marathon against the Bills on Monday night. So it's a great – if the Bills were ever going to be playing the Chiefs in Arrowhead, doing it after they played on Monday night in a game like that, after they had a laugher, I think is a great spot. But we'll get to all of that on Friday. Of course, Thursday might be the most listened to lock shop of all time. The anticipation for this Commanders-Bears game is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And I'll tell you what, tomorrow we'll bang out our CFL picks, Dusty, and maybe get a hockey pick or two.
Got to have a few hockey plays. Got to drop some puck picks for you on Wednesday, I think. Busy schedule there. Actually, before we wrap up, what's the score of that Kings game?
It's 1-0 Kings.
Stuff.
You're looking good.
It's my lock shot play of the day right there. Fingers crossed. Let's see if they can finish that off for me. That would be nice. All right, that is Week 6 preview episode of the Fantasy Football Extravaganza, a lock shop production, as always, brought to you by our partners at CoolBet. When you sign up for an account at CoolBet, use the code LOCKSHOP. You get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit, up to $200. Huss, we'll talk some CFL and NHL tomorrow morning, buddy. Talk to you then.
Have a good one, dude.